The Wagner Group's global footprint. These are the countries in which the Wagner Group is known or suspected to have activity in. Alright, first of all, we shouldn't be surprised with Russia or Ukraine. That one's kind of a given. And there's been a lot of news recently about their activity in Africa as well. I didn't think it went as far out as Madagascar though. And they might possibly be as far out as in Venezuela too. Again, the Wagner Group is basically mercenaries or a private military company. Why would they use that icon? This doesn't necessarily scream good guys. But we know as of recently, they're also in Belarus. There are some reports they could be in Syria and Armenia. I guess technically speaking, as long as there's one dude from the organization that is in a foreign country, that counts on this list, right? The bizarre border between Finland and Sweden on Market Island. Market Island is a very small place somewhere here in the Baltic Sea. And when I say small, I mean really small. Like it's barely even a dot. But when it came to drawing the borders, Finland said, "Do not touch my lighthouse." I guess to make up for it, they decided to give Sweden a bit of land themselves. It's just not as cool because obviously it doesn't have a lighthouse. If I had to guess, what happened here is Finland decided to build the lighthouse, but you want to build the lighthouse in the tallest point on the island, which meant it kind of crossed over into Sweden's land. So to make up for it, they were like, hey, you can take a block this way. Not that Sweden even cared, it was just a political move there. I don't even know how accurate my theory is because it looks like the island is pretty much just a barren, flat rock. Also, why is it so hard to find pictures of this place on Google? Maybe instead of it being the highest point, it just has the best foundation or something like that. This looks incredibly horrifying. I don't think you could pay me to go to this place. They actually built the lighthouse all the way back in the 1800s, but the border wasn't adjusted until 1985. When will Sweden and Finland stop arguing over islands? Seems like they're destined to do this forever. Population yearly change by World of Statistics. The country that lost the most, Japan, at negative 383,000. I knew they were facing a depopulation problem, but that is a huge amount of people. That is almost like losing the entire state of Wyoming in 1 year. Maybe like half of a Wyoming per year. Good thing Wyoming doesn't exist. This one, unfortunately, yeah, that's a downer. We then have Romania losing over 100,000 people. Then it's Italy at negative 88,000. Venezuela, which, I mean, they're dealing with some chaos. A lot of people leaving the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico, it appears. Finally, the bleeding stops in between Belarus and Estonia. Estonia actually gained 800 people. Spain gained 18,000. Denmark still going. Wait, I thought South Korea was actually suffering more than Japan in terms of population. Where's Russia getting those people from? We have France, Germany, the UK, Australia. Australia's got to start filling out their continent somehow. They only got 25 million people living on that desert. I mean, it's a desert. I get it. As for some of the countries that are gaining the most, we have the USA at almost 2 million, and then a lot of places from Africa, like Egypt, the Congo, Ethiopia, Nigeria, but of course, China and India, just absolutely exploding. I'm not sure if some of that data is old because there's been so much news about how China actually shrunk a bit, but maybe there's some different details to that information. Alexandre Dumas's 2-year journey to Russia in 1859. So it appears he started in Paris, went through modern-day Germany, decided to take a boat through the Baltic Sea and then reach St. Petersburg from there, visited some sites like Moscow and Kazan, reached all the way to the Caspian Sea and went up and down the coast of that, then through the Caucasus Mountains, bounced through the Black Sea, visited Istanbul, and then on his journey through the Mediterranean, he squeezed through Italy and then found himself back in the south of France. He was a French novelist and a playwright, and he's one of the most widely read French authors. Keep in mind, this would be a very different Russia than we know today. This is still way before the communist uprising and the Russian Civil War, but it was after they defeated Napoleon, or the winter defeated Napoleon. But what I find most crazy about this is it took 2 years. Now, I'm guessing he probably like chilled and relaxed in some of these spots. It wasn't like he was trying to make this journey as quickly as possible, but even as little as 150 years ago, this would not be a very easy trip. So easy to take for granted being able to fly or take a boat to pretty much anywhere instantly. I mean, boats still take a while, but flying. The dwindling buffalo herds of the 19th century. These things used to run wild throughout North America. Though they roamed across much of North America, today they are ecologically extinct. Or maybe I need to be using the word bison here. The original extent of buffalo herds reached all the way north to the northern territories of Canada and as far south as northern Mexico. These are some pretty extreme climates. That's crazy. They used to just like run wild through that. Not to mention they were exploring the Rockies by Colorado, and they would also go as eastward as Pennsylvania. Actually, even New York right here. However, that tanner circle inside shows just how quickly they kind of began to disappear. By 1889, there was a spot here with 500. There was 10 in Montana, 200 in Wyoming, well, plus 26. Only 20 here and 25 there. How do we get them to come back? And apparently we actually are. There are conservations bringing back the bison. They are beginning to make their return. The land is healing. I love this article. 5 intriguing buffalo facts. Number 1, buffaloes can be very dangerous. You think? Where did you get that idea? Could it be these massive horns or the fact they weigh like 1,000 pounds? Sometimes even 2,000 pounds. No thank you. You don't gotta tell me. I understand they can be dangerous. Comparing the US state of California to the Japanese islands. First of all, aesthetically, they do look similar. They kind of have the same curvature, just in opposite ways. In terms of land area, they're pretty spot on. Though Japan is longer, they do have a lot more islands, a lot more water to worry about. Big difference, California has 40 million population, about that, whereas Japan is squeezing in way more, ×3 and then some. Of course, population density is going to reflect that. GDP very similar, 3.7 trillion to Japan's 4.4 trillion. I can't believe California is keeping up with Japan like that. GDP per capita, California is actually beating out Japan. It's because we have less people, but still a lot of money. This is making me think of random map mods that change map video games and like swap locations of places. Not surprised there's actually several images showing how to do this. Bottled water consumption per capita in Europe. The country that loves bottled water the most is Italy. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, Sweden loves it the least. I guess when you have water just super clean outside, you don't need bottled water. This is making me think, am I an anti-bottled water person? I think I am. I didn't even realize that. I never use this stuff. I didn't even realize I was doing that, to be honest. Just got my little water purifier and dump that in my hydro flask and call it a day. I don't really like to buy bottled water. This is weird. Am I one of those old people that are just complaining about stuff? I wasn't even complaining about it. It's just the unconscious part of my brain always just believed that bottled water was kind of a waste. I'm now just admitting it for the first time. I didn't even know. But I guess it really depends on how your tap water is. I guess I just trust California's tap water, even though I don't know if I should. If you don't come from a place that has like the greatest tap water, then I understand getting the bottled water. I'm pretty sure Europe doesn't have that bad of water though. I'm assuming all the places in the north don't use bottled water just because they already have pretty fresh sources. I mean, they pretty much live next to a giant glacier. Maybe it's a bit more difficult for the places in the south. It'd be weird if you're buying bottled water in a place that has really good tap water though. But I don't know how accurate this is. I drank the tap water in Mexico. I was fine. I guess those maps need to be broken down by like counties or something. The current Arctic Sea ice extent is 2.4 million square kilometers below the average for June. If it was a country, it would be the 10th largest in the world. Obviously, in terms of land area, Russia and Canada are 1 and 2, then we have the US and China. But with the amount of sea ice lost this year, it almost rival Kazakhstan. Wait, so does that mean we can expect more like sea level rise? Or perhaps it's just a layer of ice that we didn't get that we normally get other years. Here's what went into the frantic search for the Titan submersible. Of course, the Titanic sits at about 12,000 feet down below. Though we now know it imploded in the very beginning of its descent, there was still a massive search for it for a few days. The Polar Prince mothership helped, as well as a P-8 Poseidon and a C-130 Hercules. The US Coast Guard was deployed, as well as an Ohio-class submarine. Oh, wait. Are you just showing how deep it... I don't think you had a blue whale searching for him, too. Okay, maybe all these things are just for reference. I was gonna say, how did you get the blue whale to search for it? Whatever. There were several rumors that the Titan was just caught on some cables near the Titanic. If the current record for underwater rescue was 1,500 feet, but it was only like caught in some cables, I want to believe that maybe we could have got him out of there. They apparently were ready to deploy another submersible that had like arms attached to it and it can maybe move things out of the way. The thing I've learned about this whole thing is just the entire world seems to be obsessed with the Titanic still. It's crazy to me that out of all the boats that have sunk throughout history, it was the Titanic that everyone's mind first goes to. I mean, obviously the movie helps a lot with that, but there's been several massive boats that have sunk and that have actually been way deadlier too. Percentage of male population practicing yoga. Not surprised by this, India takes that #1 spot. Almost a quarter of the population practice yoga. The male population, that is. Number 2 is the USA at 12%. Then we have the UK at 9%, and South Korea at 7%. I find this interesting because I sometimes do yoga. It's a free class, like I might as well. I find it insanely difficult because I am not that flexible. Then we have the percentage of female population practicing yoga. Surprisingly, India is not #1. It's actually South Korea. Almost half of females in South Korea are doing yoga. That is an insane number. Especially comparing that to the male population, that was only at 7%. India is at 31%. Spain is at 31%. The UK is at 30%. The US is at 27%. Obviously, say none of the male population from these countries are beating the female population, but I thought they would be close. The closest is actually India with a quarter of their population. That's a lot of people practicing yoga. I guess it came from India after all. Yoga's origins can be traced back to northern India over 5,000 years ago. Spotify premium subscribers drive almost all of its gross profit. I'm really surprised about this because just anecdotally, I thought a lot of my friends use like the advertising version, the ad supported version, I guess. But maybe they just don't make very much money off of that. Only 0.4 billion? Like their ad rates must be insanely low. I mean, it's normal that a subscription, like a raw subscription per month, is probably going to bring you more than ad supported users. That's pretty much the origin story for YouTube Premium. They're going to make a lot more money if you pay them $10 per month than if you just watch the ads. I wonder if you could technically do the math in your head. How many videos would an individual have to watch to equate to $10 per month? Over 1,000 easily. So it's like super beneficial if you just pay them directly for them. I think that math is right. 1,000? I like Spotify. I'm a premium subscriber, but it just seems really expensive. Like I still always think like, is this justifiable? I like music as much as the next guy, but $10 a month? I've always thought this should be $5. Netflix makes sense, $10 a month. Music, I don't know. But here I am, I'm still paying for it. And I'm a chunk of that 11.9 billion. Inter Miami gained over 7 million Instagram followers in 2 weeks after signing Lionel Messi. What's interesting is you can kind of see when the rumors popped up the day before because they didn't confirm it until June 7th. I think a more impressive statistic is over the course of 2 days, they gained 6 million followers. It's a little bit less than that, maybe like 5 because they started off at over 1 million. And then every day after that, they just got more and more as the information leaked to more of the public, or at least got to more of the public. It wasn't really leaked. What's huge for this team though is the continual uptick. I mean, I probably didn't learn about it until like a week after maybe, and that's probably going to continue to happen to most Americans. Obviously, we don't follow football or soccer very closely, but I think we all know who Lionel Messi is now. I mean, if you didn't know it already before. The yellow is comparing it to the LA Galaxy. So LA Galaxy, yeah, they're nothing anymore. That's going to be such a crazy deal. And big thanks to the patrons. I am the kidnapper. I oofed Drew since no one paid his ransom. This channel's now run by AI. Australia is real. I'm Argentinian. $20 is a lot. Asher, 200 Norwal, Chester, Tiny, Carmel, A Nargin, Traven, John Denver, KirinoIsBestGirl, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, Twickenhamster,